Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Returning to open session, announcement of action taken in closed session.
The board unanimously approved the following positions. Ground Supervisor, Classified Witchpeck Elementary, Christine Milligan. ACES Site Lead, Classified Witchpeck Elementary, Christine Milligan. Instructional Assistant, Special Needs, Classified Witchpeck, Christine Milligan. Outreach 1, Classified, Jack Norton, Orleans, and Witchpeck Elementaries, Natalie N. Scott. Secretary, Librarian, DEIA Tech, Classified, Orleans Elementary, Tasha Jo Marshall. Custodian 1, Classified, District-wide, Kimberly Koch. Mechanic 3, Classified, District-wide, Edward Maston Jr. Varsity Girls Basketball Coach, Hoopa High School, Christina Robbins. Boys Basketball Coach, Varsity Boys Basketball Coach, Walk-on, Derek Smith. Cross Country Coach, or JV Basketball Coach, Walk-on Coach, Hoopa High School, Derek Smith. Cross Country Coach, Classified Hoopa High School, Benny Griggs.
All right, thank you. We'll now move to information items. Hoopa Valley Tribe PUD Acorn Network update and recommendation. Linnea, is that Linnea?
And I just wanted to say we put this on. We've had some meetings. Linnea can give an update. You were provided the overview of the project, some of the budget considerations. Good evening, Linnea.
Good evening. How are you?
Hi, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
I commend you guys all for developing your evenings. It seems like there's a lot of discussion, so I appreciate the time tonight. Hoopa Valley Public Utilities initially gave a presentation almost a month ago to the administration and the trustees, as well as KTJUSD staff. We provided an initial scope. The broadband is something that the Hoopa community has needed for probably a good decade. COVID has had its setbacks, but it's also provided some financial ability to make this project a reality, you know, for our people, for our students, for our entity, for people that are taking online courses. So it has a far-reaching ability to affect everybody in this community. So we've been working with the superintendent as well as David Ellie, who's the IT person. And what we've been trying to do is facilitate this project that can meet both goals. So we have a goal to provide this service, this essential service to the community. And the school district has some educational goals, needs, and requirements. So what we're doing is we're trying to partner as best as we can, utilizing existing data, prioritizing the projects on how we can install for the most at-risk students that do not have any type of access, making that affordable, as well as meeting some of the educational goals listed in the learning continuity plan. So what we're trying to do is create a phased approach to this. I understand that the school district is still calculating the amount of CARES funds that you have to allocate for these projects. So what we're trying to do is refine the data and then work with the school district on the availability of funds to make this project a reality for our kids and community. Were you guys able to review the phase 2 collaboration document that was provided?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so this is kind of a phase 2. So we're spearheading off of our first initial meeting that took place a month ago. We've had time to refine the data a little bit more. I think it needs further streamlining, and we also need to think about what financial contributions can be added to this. The Hoopa Valley Public Utilities was granted money from the CARES funding from the council But with any major infrastructure project, we've run into costs that weren't initially anticipated. So for some of our off-grid sites, we're having to install generators. We're having to upgrade batteries at these remote sites that only really have a shelf life of 10 years and have met their capacity. So what we're trying to do is review each additional site that will provide our system, provide resiliency, because we do want a robust system that's reliable. So there's additional tower costs, there's configuration of those. One of our links is located on Horse Mountain, and that specific tower requires ice bridges. When the weather turns really cold, some of the radios up above will basically have icicles on them, and it'll drop down when the temperature warms up, and it can potentially hit the antenna. So we don't want to have any type of mechanical errors. So you install kind of a steel bridge over it that provides protection. That's just one additional cost. Sugar Pine, which is located on the Hoopa Valley Reservation, it's up Bear Road, is an off-grid site. There's no power poles there, and that's the site that we had to install an additional generator and upgrade every single battery. The school district is one of the sites there that has the communications at that site. So it was kind of a win-win because we're providing upgrades for, I think, the sheriff's department's up there, the school district, tribal forestry, our Office of Emergency Services, and now our broadband. So I think our ability to upgrade these sites is really providing a multifaceted approach to communications, which is far reaching. So I guess our goal here is to work as best as we can with the superintendent, with the staff, with the teachers. I appreciate being able to listen to some of the letters and some of the struggles that not only the teachers are having, but the parents are having. There's challenges with, this type of learning, and this is one way to help facilitate that. For the past year, the Hoopa Valley Public Utilities District has submitted for a California Public Utilities grant, and it's under review. We should be hearing back within the next several weeks on the awardees. If awarded that, the homes that are low income will be provided a base rate for a period of 2 years. So, and it would be allow the school district's investment to be far reaching in collaboration with these other grants that we're submitting for, because we all know we have a economically depressed area. We want to be able to provide the service, but make it affordable and a realistic dream for students. So that's what we're trying to do, is that we're trying to create a resilient system. We're trying to meet educational goals, and we're also trying to make it affordable for the families who absolutely need this. So you have teachers working from home, kids working from home, parents working from home. And I think it's kind of a dire necessity for this entire community and probably the world at this time. So I would really appreciate the trustees considering our proposal. Like I said, the past month, we were able to refine this document. It's not the final document because we need to work with the data, prioritize installations, and then look at what potential investment could come from the school district. So that's what I would be asking you guys to, respectfully consider, is how can the school district help this project, which can benefit the students and this entire community. Did you guys have any questions on the proposal or our program that we're developing?
This is Carrie Waddy, and I was going to ask if you had contacted the state, because I know the State Department of Education has said that they would help in any way possible to get internet service to students in need. And I don't know that that's the CARE Act. I think that's something else. So I just wanted to know if you had heard about that.
I have not. We haven't reached out to the educational state, but the California Public Utilities is a state entity. And that's who we're trying to receive this grant from, which will provide fiber to the home. It'll provide low income families with resilient monthly rates and provide free installation as well. But that hasn't been funded yet. I was hoping to work with some of the tribal departments that were geared towards education. So maybe Erica Tracy, you know, could reach out, because really we've had 4 months to completely develop a broadband branch. And I don't think anyone knows how intensive and what a huge workload that is. So it's tower configurations, it's ordering equipment. And if you think about what's in demand, broadband's in demand, which lessens the availability of equipment. Luckily, we partnered with the right people that have connections, because some of this equipment is in back order. And luckily, we were able to make the investment early on, so we have secured our equipment. So we've set ourselves up, but we definitely still need, you know, as much support as we can to make this a reality. So I would hope to work with Erica or some of the other educational components and maybe link up and partner, because public utilities can't do it all. And it's mostly a time constraint and staffing constraint, because there's only, you know, a handful of us working on that.
I really appreciate all the work that you have gone.
Thank you. Thank you. So I don't know what, oh yes, sorry.
Lorelei?
Yes, I was reading the proposal and looking at the $230,000, and that's for a 10-month period. Is that installation, or will the after it's installed, is there a different rate for like a monthly fee or whatever?
That does cover the monthly fee. That was just based on the amount of months that children are in school or having to distance learn. And mind you, this can be revised based on the available budget. This is just putting together, you know, what potential cost estimates could be. And obviously we have to work within the confines of what we have. So if the school district wanted to just pay for the installation and have those families pay that monthly fee, or some of the homes that there was a study that was done and a survey that was done, and some students said they didn't have access to any type of internet. So maybe we prioritize those homes that have zero access and maybe provide the monthly service if possible.
Well, I was just wondering if there was a breakout of what the installation versus the monthly fee would be, because I know we need a lot of families will not have even money for the monthly fee. But I was just wondering if there was a breakout of that, or if it's early in the game to figure that out.
I think that at the bottom in the chart that Linnea provided, for example, the easy, medium, and hard, that is just the cost of installation, correct?
Right.
And then the monthly fee is broken out separately. And that is a concern that we have if we are able to provide the installation. We need for the service to be continuing, but go ahead, Linnea.
Right. And so we're open to, you know, thinking outside of the box. Does the school district want to only prioritize student homes, or can you make a contribution to the upgrades needed for the system? I thought that it might be more in alignment with your funding to directly benefit student homes. Maybe there's homes that have multiple children that attend your school. You know, sometimes there's 3 and 4 kids in the home that could provide a benefit that would be a one-time cost and reach 3 different students. And that's just kind of an example. So those are the kinds of data that we need to break out. We've been provided some numbers. Obviously, everything is confidential and it doesn't list any you know, information that couldn't be released. So we're kind of just going on the data that was provided to us and trying to give it our best shot. So superintendent said that she would you know, help us refine the data, work together to come to some common goal, and, you know, help this community out. So we're doing the absolute best that we can. We've
Well,
hired a broadband. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I really appreciate everything that's going on. What was in my mind is that if the monthly access fee and the installation were separated, we may be able to go for different funding sources depending on what is what. Not just rely all on one funding source, but there may be other grants and stuff that we could go for the monthly access fee. You know, we're pay this installation out of this whatever we have pot, and then look for other sources to help the families out, because it's something that we really need. And I'm behind you 100%. I was just trying to think in my mind of different funding sources to go after for what type of service, whether it's a monthly fee or whether it's installation.
Right. And I've been trying to work with other departments as well. The TANF director said that she might be able to pay for her TANF clients. That might also meet a goal, because as we all know, there's children's in those homes as well. So if you just wanted to break out the monthly service and then look for additional funding, you know, we can set those aside and have it be maybe an addendum to the budget table. So I think it really all depends. I think, and not speaking for everybody, but I think everyone realizes what a need this is for the community. It really comes down to the financial contribution that can be provided. And that's kind of where we need the school district to step in and say, you know, we can comfortably allocate this funding and it should be used for, you know, this type of project. So we're needing the direction from the trustees and the administration as well to help guide us, because it's really based on a dollar amount and what you would like to achieve with that funding.
Okay, I guess I did not read this correctly. At the bottom line there, $75, that's the monthly service voucher. Is that correct?
Correct. And that's
Okay.
just a target amount.
Okay.
We're just kind of thinking outside of the box. But again, it's based on, you know, the available funding and what you would like to see that money used for. And I'm sure with any type of investment, you would like to see your return and you'd like to see how that's affecting your students in a positive manner.
Right.
I have a question. This is Trustee McLaughlin. So when we're looking at the hard installation vouchers, is that safe to say that these are the students who are in an area outside the valley floor and probably don't have any kind of service, whether it's cell service or, and so I'm just wondering if you know that. I mean, how do you is that those 40 vouchers, hard installation vouchers, would they be for students who were really super needy as opposed to, you know, the ones that were the medium or easy installation?
Right. So that in part is our best guesstimate. The public utilities pretty much serves almost every single household in this valley because we provide water, we provide septic. So that's based on kind of general knowledge. There are pockets in the valley where there is low cell service. They don't have line of sight to the towers. They're kind of maybe in a little gulch area. And we've purchased higher grade radios that have the ability to see through trees, that have a higher beam, if you will, for the line of sight point to point interaction. So obviously with a higher grade capacity radio, it's a little bit more expensive, but we purchased those knowing the topography of the valley and that there'll be some areas that it'll be harder to reach and have line of sight to the towers. So we've kind of anticipated those. A on-site survey would have to be completed to completely verify that, but that is our best guess based on knowledge of every single home in this valley and the layout of the terrain. So that's kind of how we estimated that.
Okay, any other questions?
I don't have a question because Linnea and I have been talking, but I just wanted to let you all know what we anticipate our next steps as we update our coronavirus relief funding, and we have requisitions coming in, and we see, how much of the things that we anticipated costing actually costing. So, Carmi and I are looking at keeping up on that budget and the expenditures. We've also looked at reallocating some monies that we thought we would use for outdoor access points. So it's just, that's how budgets are. You plan for this, and then as reality happens and expenditures come in. So we're trying to get, I just sent something out to the principals, trying to get things encumbered sooner so that we can have a better idea of what our budget actuals are looking like for that. And then the other two pieces are an MOU between the tribe and the district, and then making sure 100%, and you alluded to this, Laura Lee, in terms of the allowable expenses because school funding is like this. You have this pot of money, and there may be restrictions in terms of it might be something as subtle as we can pay for installation, we can't pay for subscriptions. But Carmi and I are looking at that with our auditor and legal. So this was just to have the discussion, and we expect that in December, at the December meeting, we'll have a proposal and that will include the MOU, the AOK from the legal side, and then an actual dollar amount that we would like to be able to contribute to, whether it's vouchers or we're still working on the actual format for that. So Carm, did you have anything else for that, or does that kind of capture where we're at, where you see it?
It captures everything as to where we're at.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well,
All
again,
right, thank you.
thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right.
Sure.
Next informational item, learning continuity and attendance plan. Jennifer.
Okay. So you all, I'm not unmuted. You received the letter that I got from Chris Hartley about with the County Office of Education's recommendations for the learning continuity plan. I do want to just say that the HCO is really accessible throughout the writing of the plan, and then, approval process. They've made themselves available as we've had questions. So the person who reviews our learning continuity plan and will ultimately review our LCAP in the spring is Jennifer Fairbanks. And so I discussed with her what to do next. And she said, well, you guys should have a discussion about the recommendations that we made. And then if we end up changing the actual learning continuity plan and reallocating some of the funding as real time happens and needs and opportunities arise, we can do that, and we can actually revise the plan and readopt it at the December meeting. So something that we didn't have when we originally wrote the plan was participating in the tribe's PUD wireless project. So things like that would be updated. So I discussed all of the recommendations with her and some responses. And so what I can do is just let you know what that discussion was, so that we can talk about it here if there's any direction that the board wants to take. So just process wise, does any of the trustees have questions? Okay, so I was just going to let you know here, go through each of the items. It was the way that they have the grid was basically, if they do not have a recommendation, they're just saying, carry on. And of course, they always encourage us to update things, even if they don't have specific recommendations. So the first recommendations that they made were to increase efforts to reach pupils and stakeholders who speak languages other than English. So we've already asked our principals to reach out directly to our families who are speakers of languages other than English. And we talked about developing ways of getting student input. Jennifer did comment that probably students views were represented by the families' responses to surveys. But now that we've been up and operational, it would be good for us to specifically design something for kids. Again, in this section that was this color, this blue, it looks gray on my screen. It was including students that will be gathered in the previous section. In terms of in-person instructional offerings, so there was quite a few recommendations that were made there. Talked about if, even though we asserted we were going to continue with distance learning, what will the 100% in-person plan be? She asked about assessments. So what I was going to respond or include in the new learning continuity plan was that later in the meeting, we're going to recommend that we continue with distance learning until the second semester. That the assessments that teachers have started with are the core growth for our younger students, and the MAP testing that's been in the district for years. That's been a slow start because it requires being with children and it requires internet access. There was a question about how making sure that how will the district ensure learning will take place and so social emotional needs are met. And so I had included in another section just that the outreach teams have been assembled at each site, including an outreach coordinator, the 3 social workers that work across the district. Humboldt Bridges to Success and Two Feathers are all services that provide behavioral, social, emotional, mental health supports to students. And then we were asked to address, even though the distance learning is currently, what are the plans for safety and hygiene? And the district nurse publishes the safety protocols and updates them as needed as we change, the model of kids being on campus or the staff being on campus. So they're emailed to everyone weekly and discussed it at staff meetings. Any comments or questions so far?
This is Lois.
Yes.
How
I
many,
have a
so my question is, how many non-English speaking students do we have in the district?
We're both mute. 3.
3?
Yes.
And are they located where? What schools are they at?
Trinity Valley and Hoopa L.
Okay.
So it seemed
And-
like at that point, for principals to just directly contact families.
Right. And what is this comment, future considerations on the very first page where it says, make sure to read through the this entire document and check for typos to support stakeholders in reading what is intended. I thought that Carrie read through the document and caught a whole bunch of them. Were they not incorporated, or was the document sent without those changes?
No, it was sent with changes. So there's another thing that, and I didn't ask her about that, Lois, because my comments were that the date of the public hearing was after September 15th. And I almost wonder if that was for another district, because we had our public hearing on the 22nd, and then we adopted the LCP on the 29th. So that seemed like a misfit. And I know we did really go through that very carefully and pick out any typos. So I do want to tell you, I sent them several drafts. So I was wondering if maybe that was responding also to one of the drafts, but because it's good to get things back and forth. But as soon as we adopted it, I sent that. So I will ask her once we go through this process, I'll ask again what that was for.
Well, I think that's code for you people don't know how to write, and it's putting the district down. But I was pretty sure that Carrie had given this document a very thorough reading. And those documents were caught. And so to have this happen I thought was not very good on the part, either on our part or the county, whatever it is.
Yes.
But
And-
I think
well-
it's important to know if they read somebody else's document and are
For that,
making
yeah. And
comments.
Jennifer's the kind of person, and we have the kind of relationship that if she thought it needed like, she would tell me, you really need to go through this. And that I did not get that indication. She thought that what we submitted was quite good. And their job is to look for holes in the content. So I will actually ask her about that. Because it had a lot of eyes on it. Carrie?
I had a question. So the in-person instructional offerings had a bunch of recommendations, and they wanted to know what our hybrid or our 100% in-person plan would be. So that's going to be submitted in the future, or does it need to be submitted now? Because we possibly could be going to a hybrid thing in January.
I think that we'll make changes to this document and approve it. I'll bring them to you in the text of the learning continuity plan for December. And our obligation to the county is to have the discussion. We have the option of saying, hey, we took your feedback. We had a discussion, we considered it. It's important, but we're not going to change our learning continuity plan. We're under no obligation to send things back to the county, nor change the learning continuity plan. Like this right now, our discussion is our legal obligation. But of course, I think it makes sense for us to incorporate those changes. So as we just weren't ready to put it in the learning continuity plan because we had to really focus on distance learning. It seems also, again, a little bit hasty because we are more than 2 months away from, we're still trying to work on the distance learning and get it and the little bit of kids on campus. But what I think that as the next month goes, we should put it in the learning continuity plan so that they can see we're starting, and it'll require also when we do negotiations and come up with the conditions for employment as well as conditions for kids. So sooner, but they are just saying, do you have any of those considerations in place? And we have more protocols since, we submitted this a month and a half ago. Does that answer your question, Carrie?
Yeah, pretty much. But, sometimes when you're speaking, your voice fades, starts out really loud enough and then it fades out. So I'm having a hard time hearing part of your sentences.
Uh-oh. Okay, I'll try to stay more still so that it's steady. All right, can I go on to the distance learning portion?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the questions was so the recommendation was the process used to ascertain the needs of students. So that's a great recommendation. So how did you determine the needs of students with regards to connectivity? So the Linnea's timing is perfect because that's been a pervasive, every conversation we have, we talk about how students don't have access to the internet. So we have basically at the beginning of the school year, and I can capture this in the narrative. We asked teachers and this has been ongoing, find out from your families and put a code into Aries, and David, and I think with Emily, but I know Ellie put in the 6 symbols for different levels and access to the internet. So that was like direct contact with students. We don't have 100% information. So there's either something teachers collected it and didn't get it to their secretaries, or that it wasn't collected, but we do have over half of the students respondents. Hoopa is the area that we have the biggest holes in the data. So I was in my notes, I just put that teachers are working tirelessly to provide daily interaction with students. One of the first tasks was to survey families, get a determination of the internet access. So that'll be addressing that. How did we figure out the needs? The other part of the distance learning was how will the district ensure the safety and health of staff and students? And how were modifications made to staff roles? So, our safety guidance is with the state, the county, and the tribal guidance. Ways to keep staff safe are to provide PPE, which has been widely distributed. It's been kind of slow in coming in, but there's been a lot that's been ordered and has been distributed to the sites. And then in terms of health and safety, the district has, school sites and supervisors and administrators have been really flexible with permitting remote work for people that can perform their duties of their jobs remotely, and having some flexible scheduling. And then there has been some reassignment of roles for outreach, for cafeteria help, just some support because there's more intense needs than in the immediacy. So that is the addresses the distance learning program areas that Jennifer Fairbanks County Office of Ed had said that they have recommendations for. Moving on to pupil learning loss, because that was the next one. She and I discussed how, the MAP tests, which have been the district's kind of standard longitudinal tracking, will be used for grades 7 to 12. K to 2 is clearly core growth. 3 to 6 will continue with MAP, but they are also being trained on the core growth. And I think that was all for pupil learning loss. They didn't have any questions about pupil engagement. And then school nutrition. And they asked how meal services will be carried out when students are participating in in-person instruction. And boy, that has been kind of a head scratcher for us, because we're asking all people who are on site, unless they're alone in an office like I am now, to be wearing a mask. And then we're talking about being in a shared space to have food, which requires that you remove your mask. So we have some options. Meals can be served, to go. We've considered eating in classrooms if the instructional day for in-person is longer than 2 hours. So there came some guidance from CDE, and they said if the in-person portion of the instructional day is longer than 2 hours, we cannot do that seamless summer mass distribution of meals for those kids. So I think that is driving some districts to think about doing in-person instruction for less than 2 hours, but we haven't made a determination about that. So we'll talk about our different options, clearly sticking with cohorts and not mixing students to the best of our ability. And should we return to 100% in-person instruction, we'll follow all the health and safety guidance for distancing. And that is the last question that was asked. So my next step is to go into the learning continuity plan and make updates and bring it back to you all next month. Questions from trustees?
Well, thank you. Okay, let's do first reading of job description. Jennifer?
Sorry, hang on. Still working with paper, not all on the screen. So this was just so that you all had an opportunity, so the public has the opportunity to look at some proposals, 2 jobs that that we'd like to make changes to, and 1 job that is being suggested for to be created. So the first one is the behavioral specialist. That would be a newly created position. It's in the classified service. It would be submitted to CSEA for their approval. So we thought we'd get it to you all just to read, and then over the next month, come up with an agreement that we can bring back to the board for approval. I'm gonna have Craig on standby because he certainly would be able to describe this with more accuracy. But I think the drive behind this is we hear in a number of platforms, whether it's from from stakeholder input, from discussions with teachers, from the IPP task force, that behavioral supports are something that are a need for our students. We're thinking about how that need may be increasing because we've been, our world has changed so much that behavioral supports for students when they return to school or even in their current conditions could be increased. So this behavioral support, this behavioral specialist is an increase in the training and the mastery of developing behavior plans for students. So it would be a resource for the district that we currently contract out for. So behavior specialist is a service that we contract with HCOE. I just did a quick summary and summing and averaging that over the past 4 years we've spent approximately $38,000 a year on those contracted services. So one of the things that Craig had identified was if we could, rather than contract that service out, have our own employee to provide those services of observing students, writing behavior plans, and then working with the people who will be working directly with the students, that would be in the best interest of the district. So that is described in the position summary. Craig, did you want to add anything to that?
I think the only thing I would add is that right now the contracted services that we get from the county are not 5 days a week, 6 hours a day. And if we had this position, we would have that daily full day support to provide more training to teachers and other support staff to make sure that our students are receiving the best behavioral support available.
All right, thank you. So next month we'll bring to you a proposal for approval. Questions from trustees about that position? Any discussion? And then the other two positions are the submission and the cover letters from Margot from Indian Ed. This is to rename the school site representatives, which are Margot's proposing, let's rename them Indian Education Academic Support Coaches. And then there's some changes and updates to that. And this again, as a classified position, will go out to CSEA for approval and ratification, and then brought back to the board for approval. So this is just for discussion. And if you have questions, Margot's on the call.
Hearing no comments, we'll move on to district reports. We'll start with the superintendent's report.
Okay. So I have a couple of areas that I wanted to just report to you all. I've gotten a number of questions about the elections, local elections, and the way that the trustee areas, the voting happens. So I just did have a couple of things I'd like to report out on that. So in December 2013, the board bylaw 9220 was adopted. And in that, it identifies that the district is divided into trustee areas, and each trustee area shall be represented by a board member who resides in and is elected by voters residing within that trustee area. The questions that I received were the idea of the voting at large versus voting within trustee areas. And I know that the district previously, even though you were all area trustees, the voting and your election was at large. So there is the California Voting Rights Act. Basically was it's a mechanism to allow voting rights. Of course, that's the intention of it. But in response to that, there basically were several hundred lawsuits across California, which challenged the idea of voting at large. And basically no districts came out being able to defend having voting at large. And districts have spent, I mean, we have a local district that spent $30,000, didn't even go to court, changed their voting to trustee areas. So the changes were spurred by lawsuits that were happening across the state. And millions of dollars in legal fees have gone into this. And so the most legally defensible position for a district to take is to have trustee areas that are elected only by residents that reside in that trustee area rather than the at-large. So that seemed to be kind of a shock to our community that change had happened. It was a while ago, but this is only the second election cycle where there's been voting by trustee area. So I just wanted to clarify that for folks who are listening in, and for anybody who's plans on running. You will be only elected by the people who reside in your trustee area. And then in terms of the elections, the Humboldt County Office of Elections has released an unofficial report. They're going to continue to post updates, and they will certify the election they expect on December 1st, which includes several of our trustee areas. I wanted to just give you a check-in. My other areas are labor relations. I met with the presidents of both of the unions, actually this morning. It's our second superintendent and president's meetings, and we'd like to continue to meet. We talked about the dates for negotiations and scheduling. I think it was helpful to have the representatives from both unions with myself, and just kind of looking at how many shared interests that we have, and talking about calendaring. Health and safety, we know that cases are up around the county. They are I think there's one active case currently in Hoopa. There's no cases on the Europe reservation. Within instruction, distance learning, we're going to propose that we continue with distance learning, and that's kind of in response to we're not staying ahead of COVID as a county, nor as a state, nor as a country. Locally, it's still looking pretty good, but just in terms of anticipating that we may have to respond, so we're going to recommend continuing to have distance learning and increasing the amount of appointments that students can have, and that'll come up in a couple of minutes when we get to action items. But we're finding that the reporting from teachers and from families is that having kids on campus is going to give them access to learning that they just don't have with the exclusive distance learning. And I've conferenced with some superintendents that are running school districts that are back in-person learning. So they've invited me to come and do some site visits so that I can, have some feet on the ground at their school sites and look what it looks like with students on campus. And then my other piece. So Lois, do you have any questions before?
No.
Continue. Okay. So David Ellie finally has some resolve on hotspots. He spoke with Cyber Reef, which develops our private network. We're expecting the hotspots any moment. The purchase order has been in. They're paying for overnight delivery. Doesn't mean we're going to distribute them immediately. So he is predicting not this next Monday, but the following Monday, because the hotspots have to be configured. So they should be to us by the end of the week, and then the configuration should happen. And then my last area is professional development, that there were a couple of things that have been offered, including crisis response and support with Jennifer Oliphant from Two Feathers. Lori Breyer did core growth training with our primary grades teachers. Jacqueline has been in touch with Janice Lorenzo, who will offer some support for Google Classrooms, as well as we have a lot of in-house expertise, and we had some folks that were doing Google Classrooms today, our teachers training other teachers. The only other thing for my report before I just give an LCAP report is about back to the governance piece. Trish just reminded me, I said, hey, let's make sure that we talk about the December meeting, because the December board meeting is a big deal. It's called the organizational meeting. This is when new trustees will be sworn in. This is also when we will determine the clerk and the president of the board. Well, not we, I don't get a vote. When the trustees will do that. Trish, do you want to add to the timeline, what happens at the organizational meeting, so we all know what to expect?
Yes, so at the organizational meeting, we will have all the current board members that we have now. We will have them open the meeting. They'll adopt the agenda. Following that, we will do things a little bit different than what we would do at a normal meeting. We will swear in the new board members and they will be seated. After that, they will decide who they want to be president, who will be clerk, and who will be the county representative. And once we get that completed, we can move on with the business of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. I have a separate item, the LCAP, which I'm keeping on the agenda forever and ever until the State Board of Education doesn't have an LCAP. But I think that that's going to be, the way that we go from now on. And it's, an opportunity to identify goals for the district, allocate resources that will provide the services to meet those goals. So here's what we are expecting. The State Board of Education will release the LCAP template in January of 2021. We are in the process, we as a district, but me as the lead on that, are starting to reach out for the Parent Advisory Committee. I'm asking principals to reach out to families of English learning students. I'm going to ask each site council to identify a parent. And one of the advantages of that is to have continuity between the site plans and the LCAP, because they absolutely should be aligned. The site plans, there's a lot of autonomy that sites can have under the umbrella of the goals of the district. I have a parent representative from the IPP task force who volunteered. I think actually there's two. And then there was a parent advisory committee group that worked with Kenny Richards and Dave Lawn in this, well, I guess over the last school year. So I've reached out to them to see if any of them are interested in serving on the parent advisory committee for the next LCAP, which will be developed and for 3 years. I mean, there's always updates, but it's kind of a new restart. So thank you all.
Thank you. Assistant Superintendent Report, Business and Personnel.
You have my monthly recap in your packet. And just to go over a couple of things, we're continuing to work on our first interim reporting. And we do have some new updated revenue that's coming through. And you'll notice that I didn't really outline it, but if you looked at last month's compared to this month in regards to federal revenue, we did increase our impact aid based on our trend. And so on first interim, you will see the assumptions as to how that came about. We had an increase to our revenue for LCFF, and that's based on our current estimated numbers for our unduplicated pupils. Keep in mind that we are checking every week for our CalPATs to look at our unduplicated counts and to see what children are uploaded into our areas, so that we're staying within our estimated amounts for that revenue source. The only other thing that you're going to find in here is that the current budget still maintains all of our vacant positions. And speaking with School Services of California, I'm getting some exceptional help from a gentleman named Matt Phillips. And with his guidance, we're working on the vacancies and how we would reflect to just what the actual is. And so you're going to see a couple of new documents that I'll be submitting for first interim, and it'll be clear. It'll be based on unrestricted revenues and expenditures, and versus the restricted revenues and expenditures. And that is all that I have. I do have a couple of our managers that uploaded some reports. We have some transportation reporting done this evening, and I'd like to thank Missy for uploading all of that. She's been working very hard, her whole crew, and it's kind of nice to get a snapshot of that. Also, our ACES manager, Tavuchi, she also has been doing a fantastic job as well, and coming up with some really innovative ideas for our after school program. And she's got a great crew that's really doing some really impressive things. And so I'm pretty proud of those guys. So you will be seeing their report. We are asking the managers to provide monthly reports, even if it's not an upload for reporting by itself. If they could give it to me and I can, give a reflection of how their departments are doing. Our departments are doing a fantastic job given the situation that we are currently in. Things are changing, evolving, and I have to give them credit where credit is due, that they are really, they're very flexible for the most part. And at a moment's notice, they're coming through. Each and every one of our managers, our employees that are, working under each of the managers that I'm, personally in charge of. And I can't say enough for those employees. And that's about it for my report. So I hope to be giving you some more good news next month for our first interim. So thank you.
Thank you. Assistant Superintendent report, Student Services, there is a written report in your packet. Craig?
That's correct. So I provided it in advance so you would have a chance to review it at this time. Are there any questions?
This is Laura Lee. And thank you, Craig. I appreciate your report. It's very informative. I was wondering, under the MA and LEA billing that we've been receiving revenues from, if maybe in next time you could put a dollar amount to that on
Sure.
what are we getting back. Also, we had, what was something else I had on here? I think that was the main thing. Okay, that was it.
I'll be glad to provide that to you next month.
Laura Lee, are you asking
Appreciate it.
for the revenue that's coming through the
Yes.
billing? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Indian Education Director's report.
Hello. So I would just like to report that we have had another Indian Education parent meeting, as well as an Indian Policies and Procedures Task Force meeting. At the parent meeting, we discussed priorities for spending, and the budget was submitted to the AIECE grant according to those recommendations. At the Indian Policies and Procedures meeting, the task force is looking back at the recommendations made for the past 3 meetings and prioritizing those recommendations, recognizing that there are a some really big ticket items and some that would be a bit easier to implement and with a quicker time frame. The impact aid report to tribes and community. I have been compiling the data and turning them into graphs. The task force recommended that being as we don't have complete data for last year, that I use information from map scores from the beginning of last year, the fall, to the mid-year winter test scores. And looking at those, the primary grades are a little bit alarming, I guess I could have to say. The map scores for kindergarten math in the fall to the winter, those students scoring far below proficient went from 2% in fall to 42% in winter in math. In that same group, the proficient and above dropped from 44% in the fall to 23% in winter. So it is, like I said, it's pretty startling. In first grade, math proficiency scores dropped from 38% in the fall when they entered kindergarten to 23% in the winter. And then in second grade, there were improvements in the math scores, so I was happy about that. And I was just kind of focusing on those primary grades for the report tonight. There are, of course, results at all grade levels. For the primary scores in reading, we fared somewhat better. In kindergarten, 38% were proficient in the fall, and in the winter, 30%. So some drop, but not as startling as the math scores. In first grade, 29% came in scoring proficient, and that went up to 30% by winter time. And in the second grade, 25% of of second graders were proficient at or above in reading, and that fell to 22% in winter. So that's just a little sneak peek at some of the map test scores for last year. For the Title VI grant funding, I have registered for the 2021-22 school year. And that's all that's required for that at this time. The high school contacted me in an effort to access tribal facilities to provide academic services downriver. And so I was able to contact the Yurok tribe, and they were in council, and I sent a quick request, and they approved the high school teachers to meet with 4 students at a time at Morrick-Wan, and we're also trying to expand that to Tule Creek, so they would alternate places there. We have also continued to support distance learning by uploading resources for teachers in terms of language CDs and movies. The Hupa, Yurok, and Karuk village DVDs have been uploaded for teachers to access. The Hupa, Yurok, Karuk common phrases have been uploaded to the website for teachers to access. We also submitted that language CD to KIDE, and the other day we heard it on the radio, so that was pretty cool. We have sent home some projects for students, little bags of acorns, and tied in with some math standards, and also some medicine plants with information on what to do with those. And we have been purchasing sets of books for teachers to send home with students. One of the ones that we're really excited about is Soldiers Unknown, which is written by Che Lowry. And that is about some young Yurok men going off to World War I and the experiences they went through and how that affected them when they returned home. So that is all. That concludes my report unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Margot. After school education and safety ACES report, there's a written report in your packet. Is Tabuchi here? Does she want to add anything? Okay. Maintenance transportation report, Missy Ammon, there is a written document in your packet. Is Missy here?
Yes, Missy's on the meeting.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. I don't have very much more to add. Threw it together pretty quickly. Things are moving along pretty good. We did pass our CHP terminal inspection today, so in hopes that someday we do get to run buses again. We are good for another year of our terminal inspection, so that's great news. Still don't have a lot to report on having very many bus drivers. I did get approved for the grant to get the new bus should be arriving at the end of the month. The grant was written in 2018. So getting lots of buses, just no drivers to drive them. So, but we're working on that. And we've been running the buses down the road every Friday just to keep us going down the road in hopes that someday we get to go back to school and haul kids down the road again. On the facility side of it, there's still a few things to ice out with the generator at Trinity Valley. It's been fired up, but it's still got one little hiccup, but it will be finished by the 19th totally. So I'm sorry to have to report that part of it, but it is, I heard it fired, I seen it fired, and it is very close to being dialed all the way in. So
does that,
have,
Missy, does that take care of both of the wings or both of the, does that do the whole school?
No, Lois, it doesn't. We only were able to do one portion of it. It is the biggest portion. The only portion that is not and would take that second generator is the Giddings wing. So we would still always be down until we decide to move forward with putting the second generator that was purchased for Trinity Valley in, which is going to entail a lot more work and a lot more funding and stuff. And it still needs to be looked at for the future because we want to someday get that installed. It's been purchased, it's been bought, and it needs to probably get put in. But no, this is only one side. This is the biggest generator and it fires up the most majority of the school, but not the entire school. The Giddings wing would still be down at this point.
All right. Well, thank you for getting the one in.
Yeah, and that's
I
taking a
agree.
little
Thank
bit,
you.
but
We do appreciate it.
Lois, I have a question. This is Laura Lee.
Yes, I can't see anyone on the screen, so you'll just have to, oh, you just came back. Okay,
I had
go ahead,
to,
Laura Lee.
I had to turn my video off too. Missy, how much money would it cost to get that second generator going?
I would say about 150,000, just because it's a type that doesn't have a housing unit. So it's gotta have something put around it, some sort of a structure or some kind of approved DSA sort of building that we could put on it, or I call it a dog house, which is just like shielding that could go around it, has been the cheapest option that we looked at. But I haven't found anything less than $150,000 to get that one installed so far.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Missy.
Thank you,
School
guys.
site, all right, school site report, Witchpeck Elementary School, and there is a written report.
So I've submitted the report for your advanced review. I am not sure if there are any questions at this time regarding it.
Craig, I only have one. I just wanted to confirm that there are 12 students at Witchpeck.
Yes, as of today,
Okay.
that's correct.
Any other comments? Thank you, Craig. Jack Norton, Orleans Elementary School.
Hi. I found out right before the board meeting that my report did not get to you. It was pulled because I referenced some people in my report that you had not yet approved, something like that. So I'm gonna give you an oral report today.
All right.
So we were so happy to have Natalie Scott join our River Schools team as outreach coordinator. She has already increased attendance, or we've seen attendance increase due to her efforts. She just hit the ground running. She's had this position before in the district, and so that's really great. She comes with experience. Tasha Marshall also joined the Orleans team as the secretary and librarian, and she too has been in this position previously as a sub, and you know, she knows she still has a lot to learn, but she's enthusiastic to do that, and I'm so appreciative of all she's doing. We have been having students on campus at both schools, as is all the other schools in the district, and in our experience so far, it has helped us to meet those students who have otherwise been disengaged, and so we are seeing that they are now engaging with their work, and they are improving, and their academic scores and their attendance is increasing. And so that's good. We have some families that come daily, and then we have others that come weekly. And I did acknowledge that, you know, teachers are busy, as you heard at the beginning of this meeting, that teachers are busy trying to fit all the pieces of this hex puzzle together. They're doing student meetings, they're doing their Zooms, they're doing phone calls, they're doing packet work and the grading and all that comes with it. So they are working hard. We've been doing some house cleaning here at Orleans, especially. We now that we have an outreach coordinator and a social worker, we needed a place that they can call home, and we don't have much space here at Orleans. We cleaned out one of the closets that's off the gym, and made that pretty nice for them. That required us to also attack the Connex, which hadn't been cleaned out since the construction that happened here a few years ago. So we made a lot of progress. We're feeling pretty good. That helped us to also start the process of weeding out our library. And we had Ryan Keller from the Humboldt County Office of Education. She came out and visited us and gave us some really good tips on how to improve our library collection and how to weed it out the right way. So I'm feeling good about those things. We've been working with the Mid-Klamath Watershed Council. They've supported us with extracurricular activities, art and science and cooking. And thank you to Trustee O'Gorman for the donation of pumpkins for some of the things that they're doing with our students. We had 2 staff appreciation luncheons this last month they were really nice. We followed the social distancing protocols and safety protocols, and we ate outside 6 feet apart, but it was a nice time for staff to just take a breath and connect with each other on a different level, rather than, you know, with our heads down and just working, and we could stop and eat, and everyone really enjoyed that. We celebrated Red Ribbon Week the best that we could with distance learning. And we had different days that kids dressed up and they sent their pictures in, and I included those a few of those in my report, but let's see. And also on the Monday of that week, Linda Laramie brought a really big pumpkin that she grew, and we had it out for when families came up to get their packets, they could guess the pumpkin weight. And that was a really fun way to engage the families. And I've thought about having some kind of estimation game happening each week. We had one little hiccup. The prize for guessing the correct weight was going to be winning the pumpkin, and we had 2 winners. So then again, we called up Tom, and he donated another large pumpkin. So two kids walked away with really big pumpkins. That was fun. Our new site councils have been ratified, and we've had our first meetings. I've also met recently with members of the Yurok Tribe's Education Department to get their input for Jack Norton Elementary School in preparation for including the CSI money into our site plans. And the last thing on my report is that our middle school supplementary math programs for distance learning finally arrived, and they are now being used across the district. And the middle school math teachers are happy so far with the 2 products that we purchased to help with supplementing their math teaching in this context. Do you have questions for me?
Not hearing anything. Thank you for your report.
Okay, thank you.
Trinity Valley Elementary School, and there is a written report in the packet. Jacqueline, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't get it to unmute. So I don't have much to add, but I did want to say last year we voted on reducing the TKK day, or not we, you guys voted on reducing the TKK day so that our TK and K teachers could do some reading intervention with, well, specific reading intervention with our hopefully our first, second, and third graders. And we also purchased this great program, and I know you guys remember all that. And then COVID hit and everything kind of came to a screaming halt. So we've picked it back up. Actually, I can give big shout out to my teachers because Ms. DeWong and Mr. Ronis are running with this. They're very excited. They even contacted the company to get some professional development because there's a lot of learning that goes along with this before utilizing the program and the assessments. But they are very close to being ready to do that. And we're anticipating that after Thanksgiving, we'll start having students come on campus to be assessed. And they're practicing on some of our staff children that are around right now, practicing running records and all, those types of things again. So they're really excited. I'm really excited. It's exciting to see students coming on campus. We had, the one-on-ones happening, and now students have been coming more in pairs. Teachers, I feel like, are kind of easing into that. I think they're feeling positive about it. And I think so far so good. The kids are very excited to be there. So of course we're following all the, social distancing and the checking in and temperatures and everything that we're supposed to do. And so it feels pretty safe. And then the only other thing I want to add is our Halloween trunk or treat went off without a hitch. And Mr. Quesada gave away the scariest thing at the end. He gave away a pumpkin and a homework assignment. So it was good though. It was really good. So do we have any questions?
No, but thank you for that report. Very good. Okay.
Thank you.
Cooper High School, he has a written report in the packet.
Greetings, everyone. Good evening. Thank you, Margot. I want to just say a special thank you for accommodating our teachers and our students, working offsite. I appreciate that. I do have something else that I want to add. I wasn't able to upload it in time, but it's just kind of an update on our academic progress. So I was going to read you a short excerpt here if I could, and working with our counseling department here at the high school and kind of looking where our students are at academically. So we are concerned about our students' academic progress and social emotional health during this time of distance learning. We are experiencing about a 20% increase in number of students failing classes compared with the same grading period last year. Our teachers are working diligently to schedule one-on-one appointments with students to provide additional support on top of their already challenging day of providing instruction via Zoom, phone calls, and distance learning packets. As you know, all of this is incredibly difficult time. It's an incredibly difficult time to be a student, parent, and teacher. We are hoping, with these measures of one-on-one to see a decrease in failing students, so as we can increase the number of students on campus for one-on-one appointments. And we are concerned that the distance learning and its challenges will be detrimental, affecting our students' ability to learn at and earn a high school diploma. HVHS is bringing this topic to the attention of the board so we can explore additional pathways towards graduation. The state of California allows for waivers of local graduation requirements for students who have been in foster care during grades 9 through 12. And we would like to research the possibility of possibly creating a local COVID waiver for our students who are not able to meet our additional local graduation requirements due to circumstances out of their control. These waivers do not exempt a student from any of the state of California graduation requirements. It only waives a student's requirement to meet the additional local requirements. In our case, this is 130 elective units. I am not requesting board action at this time, and we are working to try and improve our students' grades with the increased one-on-one direct instruction from teachers. We still have time before a decision needs to be made, but I would like to be proactive rather than reactive. This information is being provided to inform the board that we recognize an issue at Hoopa Valley High School that might need future action. If the board has any other suggestions or would like to provide input, we welcome opportunity to strategize together. In regards to our students' social and emotional needs, we are continuing to refer students to the Clementine Wellness Center for follow-up services, and Irma and her outreach team have been a key piece in providing services and added supports to our kids. Two Feathers in Humboldt County are continuing to provide clinical services to our students during this challenging time. So it's not a request, it's just a concern that I wanted to bring to all of your attention, that hopefully with our increased supports and getting more kids on campus, our grades of our students can continue to go up. It takes some time to tell. So thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? Okay, thank you. Captain John High School. And there is a report in the packet. Okay. Hoopa Elementary School.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Glick. Scotty Appleford here. Just wanted to express the gratitude for the opportunity to be able to meet with you virtually. Just a small disclaimer, I have a 1-year-old in the background, so if you hear any squealing, that's one of the benefits of being able to, there you go. One of the benefits of being able to do this from home. So wanted to give you a verbal update on some things here at the school. Starting off with something that most recently happened as of the last 2 days, document cameras have been distributed to teachers to assist them in delivering curriculum and to the students virtually. I also wanted to report that there's been an increase in professional development thanks to some of the hard work from Jacqueline getting some things established. A lot of our staff are taking opportunities to do that. We have seen an increase, a steady increase in our appointments for students here on campus, which has been wonderful and really sparked some good feeling emotions. I had my unsolicited hug from a kindergartner the other day, and it about melted me. It was pretty amazing. In spite of COVID, we're still charging forward with some of our periphery programs, some of our, not just periphery, but instrumental programs. Turnaround Arts has been moving forward and with meetings and writing of various documents to make sure that's still used and implemented. Our differentiated systems meetings have taken hold and are moving forward, as are our MTSS meetings, thanks to the hard work of Maggie. As of tomorrow, I will be working with teachers on our task force, what we're calling our task force, to start identifying the manners and the logistics of increasing students on campus and looking at what we're doing currently, frankly, to see if we can tweak things to make them more efficient and safe. Our site council also met. Karen spoke about hers last month, and it's important to point out that in our last meeting, the council approved renewing its commitment for the TOSA position, the instructional coach for the differentiated assistance. Also wanted to talk a little bit about some of our challenges right now. Currently, we're short-staffed due to various illness, family emergency, and childcare challenges for staff here at the school. This has affected our certificated and classified staffing, especially in recent weeks. This is concerning, especially for us here, the largest school in the district, as it has been painting a picture of the shortcoming implementing the logistics required as we consider increasing the number of students back on campus. So we're continuing to work with that, pulling in subs and trying to make things work. It's been quite the challenge, though. We also have been operating without one of our two sixth grade teachers since mid-September. We have one teacher who's been providing services for the 43 students in that grade level. And I might add, in an amazing and very resilient fashion. We did have a couple of really, really good candidates that we interviewed a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, the one that we selected lives down in Pasadena, and making the trek all the way up here to Humboldt County seemed a little daunting, it sounded, so he declined. In closing, I'd like to offer my support to the teachers concerning their workload. I know it's been a topic of conversation in the beginning of the meeting here with the letters that were submitted. I just have to state, in my near 20 years of working in schools, I have never seen such resiliency and dedication to teaching. I'm fortunate enough to be able to speak to all the dedicated teachers here at Hoopa Valley Elementary. I hear their concerns and I witness what they are doing. I can confidently say all of them have dedicated multiple hours above and beyond their contractual obligations. I think it's important to point out that the vast majority of these hours have nothing to do with educating our students. Between communication with families in multiple and cumbersome ways, scheduling and facilitating appointments with students, tracking attendance in a confusing and cumbersome manner, grading, and in some cases, providing their own training for distance learning technologies and tools. I can say confidently that the teachers at HVES are and continue to go above and beyond what any of us thought we would ever ask to be do as educators. That being said, I can say without hesitation that most of our teachers here are accomplishing all these tasks while simultaneously experiencing their own form of trauma and extreme concern for their safety and the safety of their students and families. From an administrative lens, we too are reinventing the wheel constantly, and in most cases, we've had to start over and over again. And I keep stating that we are essentially learning as we go here. And unfortunately, we're going to walk away with this new skill set that we will hopefully never have to use again. In closing, it's my hope that we can find a way to bring our students back to campus safely and within the guidelines of the state, county, and tribal authority. I believe this can be done while simultaneously keeping our staff safe if we're thoughtful and mindful of what we're being asked to do. I would like to personally thank many of my colleagues for their continued support and shared vision as we move forward. The extra commitment that many of them are showing to directly support me is also a testament to their continued dedication during this time despite their heavy workloads, added stress, and changing obligations. I'm extremely proud to be part of this team here at HVSS. And with gratitude and respect, I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Employee group reports. Klamath Trinity Teachers Association, KTTA.
Good
Yeah,
evening.
Maggie?
Yes, I'm wondering if I can, if you guys can allow for me to share my screen. Thank you. Greetings. I'm going to go ahead and put you guys in present mode and close my little window here. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit more of a visual report tonight, let you guys know what everybody's been up to. Certificated members have been really hard at work. One area that we have found ourselves doing more of this year is building curriculum. Many teachers started the year without adopted curriculum, consumables, and supplies, and despite this challenge, they worked collaboratively to support one another in finding and sharing resources more suitable for distance learning packets. Some teachers delivering packets to students who were unable to come get them themselves. Targeted goals for each week included core subject materials, social emotional components, physical health components, art, culturally relevant, and engaging activities. We're also finding ourselves having, as you heard earlier, we're having to convert our training from the classroom to a digital platform. With very little district-sponsored training, teachers have been transitioning traditional instruction to online and virtual-based instruction through many platforms, spending extensive time to learn and apply simultaneously. Virtual classroom instruction sometimes is on Google Meets or Zoom. There's a tremendous amount of time spent to maintain virtual platforms such as Google Classroom. Learning and applying new technologies such as Adobe Spark, Seesaw, Screencastify, Pixton, Jamboard, IXL, Flipgrid, and there's many, many more. Problem solving for students without devices, and also training students and families how to use their devices from home. I had a tremendous amount of support in getting some visuals for you guys. And so these ones I thought were incredibly special. There's evidence here that sometimes teaching is done over text messages. And that is the only way that we can reach our students. Sometimes our students are more engaged when we develop Bitmojis and connect them to websites such as Pixton where they can build their own comic strips. There's a couple other teachers showing Zoom meetings and Google Meets. And up in the upper right-hand corner, I believe that is the entire teaching staff of Trinity Valley in Bitmoji. Certificated members are also making connections. Despite the accessibility challenges, certificated members are diligently trying to build relationships with students and families. Hours and hours of effort are invested through daily live interaction, phone calls, text messages, etc., multiple attendance records, extensive outreach to students and families available at all hours of the day, coordinating resources and support for students and families. We're also making time to provide in-person appointments. Our teachers and specialists are offering in-person appointments when they feel safe enough to do so. Personal health risks and the risks of those family members in their households must be considered when offering in-person services. Many members continue to have safety concerns about implementation of protocols with fidelity and lack of specific procedure with some aspects of services on campus. However, many teachers are choosing to offer services in person. So bargaining and KTTA activities. So nearly, when I went through my notes, we had nearly 50 hours spent in collaborating, drafting, and negotiating the distance learning MOU. This partnership agreement, like contractual bargaining agreement, is essential process to reach common understanding, agree to expectations, ensure a safe working environment, build relationships, define roles and responsibilities, and support, and centralize information for all KT staff. KTTA is also trying our best to support a learning curve for KTTA staff in bargaining. Sorry, KT staff in bargaining. We're not accustomed to bargaining with district lawyer and have voiced concerns about his lack of understanding of our community, the rural and remote geography, lack of human resources, and cultural sensitivity. At the end of the day, lawyers don't build relationships with staff. We have identified the need to define communication protocol, timely district responses under the Education Employment Relations Act, bargaining in good faith, and honoring agreements. Some next steps for us are KTTA has sunshine for the 1920 collective bargaining agreement in February of 2020. Several attempts for dates were requested and ignored through the end of the 1920 school year. We were grateful to begin the process now and currently waiting for dates for bargaining. However, the district sunshine proposal is an attack on our current partnership agreement previously approved by the board, even though there is no evidence to support a need for changes. The district's proposal to change all areas of the contract that ensures our members competitive salaries, affordable healthcare, non-biased dispute resolution, increase the class size, honoring employment agreement with specialists, compensation for additional work beyond the contractual workday, salary advancement opportunities, being able to attract new employees, and shared leadership opportunities. We're currently waiting for dates to bargain for the hybrid and in-person services. We are grateful to administrative leadership in recognizing the district's need for more time to prepare for services to larger groups of students for HEX 3. We look forward to working collaboratively to ensure a safe working environment for all staff, students, and community. We have specific concerns with community and staff access to protocols, procedures, behavioral expectations, and access to and a process to explicitly teach and measure understanding, class size and social distancing, safe transportation, food services, substitute teachers, or maybe the lack of substitute teachers, adequate PPE on hand, and a process for identifying the need to order more or have an appropriate amount, workload, in-person services, Zooms, distance learning packets. There's a lot going on right now just with appointments. So workload is definitely a concern for our members. And then symptomatic students on campus. We have had some reports that students were being as long as they're kind of not having a fever, then they're still out on campus. And that is a big concern. We don't want for our community, our staff, or our students to be able to self-diagnose themselves with maybe just a cold or a scratchy throat or a common cough, allergies, right? We want to make sure that we're following the protocols with fidelity. Thank you for the opportunity to share. KTTA members are doing amazing work and continue to be a source of inspiration. We are tremendously grateful for this team of educators. Thank you for choosing Klamath Trinity Joint Unified School District.
Thank you. California School Employees Association, CSEA, Chapter 347. Is there a representative? No? Okay. Trustee area reports. Do any of the trustees have reports? All right.
I think Laura Lee was trying to give a report, but you're muted, Laura Lee.
Muted. Okay.
There you go.
I'm seeing a lot of stress in the community, parents, etc. And I do know that teachers and school staff are going above and beyond what we ever thought educators would have to do. I understand that. I am concerned of the teachers who said that there was a rumor that they're on vacation, they're not doing their job. I don't know where that started. I've not heard it, but I think it shows our need for the district to broadcast and say what our school and employees are doing. The presentation we just had from Maggie here has a lot of very strong visuals of what our teachers are doing. When we made the job description for the public information officer, that was one of my concerns, is that we get our news from the school out in the community of all the wonderful things that are happening. I think we're not doing ourselves a service by not getting that information out and blowing the horns of our employees. There is a lot of neat things happening. We're just not getting it out in the community, and a rumor somewhere seems to take over and takes the lead, which upsets me a lot, because I know what the employees are doing. I hear it from a number of people. I also hear parents are saying it's a good opportunity to develop a lot of cultural curriculum during this time, being that it's on Zoom and on our technology that we can capture and reuse over and over. So there is a lot of good curriculum being developed that we wouldn't have had the opportunity to do without the situation we're in. So I think we need to do more blowing of our own horn and what our employees actually are doing. So I'm hearing a lot of good things out there. I just would hate to see our employees get disappointed and whatnot, thinking that they're not doing anything, that they're on vacation. That's absurd. So I don't know where that came from, but we need to do a better job as a district, taking these various reports and getting it in the newspaper and blowing the horn for our employees.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I would like to add to that. I hope the teachers know what a wonderful job that they're doing. You know, it's been hard on everybody. It's been hard on the parents. It's been hard on the teachers. It's been hard on our management staff, our cafeteria workers. It's been an amazing time. And, you know, being a grandmother with 4 children at home all day long and trying to educate 2 of them, my hat is off to teachers. That's all I can say. Is I think you guys are heroes, and I can't wait till school opens back, because I can't do your job. There's no way. And I think teachers, I'm amazed every day at the work that I get home, the food we get provided.
Maggie, do you have your hand up?
I was just going to say that I can, Trisha's asked me for a copy of the slides that I just provided and, or that I just showed. And so I don't mind if you utilize those for publication purposes. I'm pretty sure that we've all signed an agreement that you can share our images as employees. And so I don't think that there would be a problem with that. I also wanted to maybe put in a quick plug for Miss Laura Lee was mentioning that there are some really good curriculum being developed. And I did want to mention that I have been doing some site-based support work still. and the Turnaround Arts application for funding that we're currently working on is centered around developing curriculum using Lynn Risling's art as the focal point. And the purpose of that project was so that we can be culturally relevant, trauma informed, have a strong home to school component, because many of our families are going to be familiar with a local artist and the images that she creates. And we're really excited about what we can develop in that curriculum development project around our really amazing local artist, Lynn Risling.
We need someone to write that up, and so that the whole community hears that.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I move I second the consent agenda.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, let's vote. Laura, George,
Yes.
Carrie Waddy,
Yes.
Tom O'Gorman,
Yes.
Martha McLaughlin,
Yes.
Lois Risling. Yes, motion carries. Okay. Action items. Sunshine proposal. District Sunshine proposal for negotiations with KTTA. Recommendation, approve the District Sunshine proposal for negotiations with KTTA. Do I have a motion? Tom?
I have a question.
We have to have a motion first.
I have a question. We're on the consent agenda and the first thing was surplus uniforms. We're going on. Okay, I got lost. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we passed that.
Yes.
Yes. So we're on item 8A,
Okay.
which is a sunshine proposal, the district sunshine proposal for negotiations with KTTA. And the recommendation is to approve the district sunshine proposal for negotiations with KTAA. So I need a motion. Tom?
This is Tom. I move we accept the proposal.
Is there a second?
I already moved.
Okay, can you second? Because Tom moved too.
Or I can second.
Okay.
I will.
So
I-
Orly's
I
gonna
have
make
the
the
second.
motion, Tom's gonna second the motion. All right? Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes, in my tenure with the district here, it's been very unusual this year that the union argue with what we are sunshining before they even know what it is we have under each item. I've never seen that before. It's just this year. So I want to put that out there. And it is not meant to be derogatory or negative in any way, shape, or form. Sometimes there's things that come up in implementing these that use correct language, etc. But that doesn't mean that we're trying to make teachers work longer for less pay. I really have never seen that type of comments before in the 20 years that I've been in the district.
Any other comments?
I'm going to add something as well. Just that just, information that the Educational Employment Relations Act requires sunshining before we go into negotiations. The KTTA did sunshine in the spring, and there were 9 articles that they brought that they would like to have discussed. The union is required to sunshine 1 time. The district is required to sunshine twice. We have many of the articles that were sunshined by the union are shared and are the same as what the district is proposing to sunshine. And as Laura Lee states, it's just like the introduction of articles that will be in discussion. There was really no content that we put in them. It's just informing the public. These are the things that will be discussed in negotiations. So just wanted to follow up with that piece of information. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Well, I just have a question. Why is this, because I would think that it would behoove us to inform the public how it works so that we didn't, I feel like there's some misinformation about how this process works, and that's caused a lot of grief. And so is there any way that our district can, talk to our certificated staff about the process, or is that just out of, not our business?
One of the things that could happen would be our attorney talking with their representative that comes in and saying, okay, agree, these are the processes, and interpret it to their own groups.
I would just maintain that we would say these are the things that we'd like to bring to discuss, and then however, the union, they have their own procedures for bringing the things that they would like to discuss for the successor agreement.
Yes, we can't interfere with their process of negotiating in any way, shape, or form. We can't influence, we can't do a lot of things. However, I feel that the district being told that we can't have an attorney here is a breach of our right. And there is a lot of things on the process that a lot of people don't know that needs, I think you're right, Martha, the process needs to be more clearly defined, because we're getting a lot of letters to the board in our last meeting. And to me, it's the process is not clear. And so however that happens, I think it's something that needs to, it would make the process go a lot smoother if everyone adhered to the conventional requirements.
Well, and if everybody understood what those requirements were and how the process works, and I feel like we came to, it just became, it became an argument that really shouldn't have happened. I feel like if the process were very clear to everybody, then I wouldn't have people coming to me saying, gosh, what are you guys trying to do? It's like, well, it should be general knowledge with the unit and with us how this works. And I feel like the unit maybe doesn't understand, maybe the unit members don't all understand how the process works. But that may be none of our business. I don't know.
Okay. Let's vote on this sunshine proposal. There's a motion. Laura Lee George. Laura Lee?
Yeah. Yes, I was muted, excuse me.
Okay. Carrie Waddy?
Yes.
Tom O'Gorman,
Yes.
Martha McLaughlin,
Yes.
Lois Risling, yes. Motion carries. Instructional platforms. Approval of the following instructional platforms subject to the district's obligation to negotiate and reach agreement with the collective bargaining unit. Distance learning for remainder of HEX 2 and all of HEX 3 with site-based student conferences allowing for multiple students simultaneously. Site-based instruction option beginning semester 2 as health and safety conditions allow based on tribal, county, and state guidance. Recommendation, approve the following instructional platforms subject to the district's obligation to negotiate and reach agreement with the collective bargaining unit. Distance learning for the remainder of HEX 2 and all of HEX 3 with site-based student conferences allowing for multiple students simultaneously. Site-based instruction option beginning semester 2 as health and safety conditions allow based on tribal, county, and state guidance. Is there a motion?
This is Carrie, and I move that we approve the instructional platform.
Okay. Is there a second?
This is Tom, and I second that motion.
Been moved in second. Discussion.
I was wondering if Jen could elaborate a little bit of how this really looks. What are we looking at?
Well, so just in terms of timing, we have a couple weeks of school before we have our autumn Thanksgiving break. So we clearly that would be the end of this HEX. It's a gradual increase to students being on campus. So right now, what has been approved is we continue distance learning, but kids can come on for one-on-one appointments, which actually, create in terms of scheduling, that's a pretty big burden on a school site to figure out how to get all of its students on one at a time in each classroom. So we want to kind of lift the restriction of the single appointment and allow a teacher to have multiple students at once. It still is distance learning, but they need to come in for consultation. So it would be very site specific in terms of, making sure all of the PPE requirements and the spacing are available, which we know for all of our school sites currently is an option. So attached is an implementation plan. So what we're asking for is approval to do multiple students at once. And then what we would do is administratively as a team, look at what are the guidance pieces that can allow us to have a certain number of students. So the first recommendation would be to allow up to 4 students at one time. So if we have students that either, those, which is a group of kids that could be identified either because they are coming from the same family or they're in the same class and they're going to be like a subgroup that will eventually be part of a cohort. So as soon as school sites are ready to facilitate that, that's why we kind of put, tomorrow's Veterans Day, there is no school. And Thursday, there are teachers that have their classrooms set up and they are ready to have 4 students in the 4 corners with all of the safety protocols. And so that would be what we would recommend for this until we go on to our winter break. And then coming back, of course, looking at the data, if we have a spike locally or around the county, of course, we wouldn't recommend increasing the number of students on site, but we feel that the more kids are on campus, the more trained they are to the things that they have to do. And so I think it's very controlled. And I would recommend that at any school site, if there's any breach in the preparedness, like, we ran out of masks or something, of course, those would be triggers that would reduce us back to something more restrictive. We're really hoping that we can have some more significant, that we can move into groups, for January. So we just want to also have that second part, of course, based on health and safety guidelines. Does that answer your
Any
question?
other comments? Any other comments? Okay, let's vote. Laura Lee,
Yes.
Terry Waddy,
Yes.
Tom O'Gorman,
Yes.
Martha McLaughlin,
Yes.
Lois Risling, yes, motion carries. Next item is memorandum of understanding with KTTA. MOU with KTTA regarding the COVID-19 pandemic and school opening during the 2020-2021 school year. A recommendation is to approve the MOU with KTTA regarding the COVID-19 pandemic and school opening during the 2020-2021 school year. Is there a motion?
This is Carrie, and I move that we accept the MOU with KTTA.
Is there
This
a
is
second?
Laura Lee, second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Questions?
I just wanted to make a comment that this really was set out to address distance learning. There are elements of it that of course include in-person instruction for individuals or students that have special needs, and affirms the offering in person to the greatest extent possible. But this does not include a return to school, coming back with full site instruction, as you read. It's just wanted to remind you of that. It's pretty important.
Okay. Any other comments? Carrie? Carrie?
So Jen, you are saying that when we are considering coming back to school, we will have another MOU that will follow?
Yes, and it could take place. It could be an addendum to this MOU, because all of the PPE requirements and the safety protocols and definitions would remain the same. And that's why with what you just approved, it is with our obligation to negotiate. So hopefully this would stay intact, and we would add on, having site-based instruction.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's vote. Martha McLaughlin?
Yes.
Lois Risling, yes. Tom O'Gorman?
Yes.
Terry Waddy?
Yes.
Laura Lee George?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, the next item is consulting agreement with Synergy Lowell School District for food service consultation. Consulting agreement with Synergy Lowell School District for food service consultation in amount not to exceed $19,500. There is a yearly general fund contribution of $424,000. This will help mitigate that amount. The recommendation is to approve the consulting agreement with Synergy Lowell School District for food service consultation in the amount not to exceed $19,500. Is there a motion?
This is Tom. I move we accept the proposal to hire the consulting firm.
Is there a second?
This is Martha. I second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Questions?
I'm sure you have questions for me. I'm introducing this.
This is Laura Lee. With the encroachment of the 400 and some $1,000 into the general ed fund, I think that the 19.5 would be a very good investment to see if there's any way that we could improve, streamline. I know our cafeteria workers are doing a phenomenal job, but sometimes outside eyes and experience will help us see things differently. Maybe not, but I think it's worth a try. And I really want to give our food service workers a lot of kudos for what they are doing, but maybe there's a way to do things easier. So I'm in favor.
I also just wanted to comment that, our food service director is completely in favor of working in partnership. And I know that she and Billy Reed, who is the consultant, spoke, and it was a conversation that is really in support of the district. The district has a commitment to feeding all of our students. A lot of districts have different ways of generating revenue because we employ people and we have food that we purchase. And so we have some unique needs. And the other piece that is, of course, unique is we have 7 different schools that provide food service. So coming up with a simple plan there's not a simple answer. So I do think that considering that, they're ready for it, this person will just be of support. He told me that he has never worked with a school district and not had success in decreasing their cafeteria contribution. That's why I put his little bio in there and the little in the backup from Walt Hanline. So I think it will be a good investment, and it'll give us, again, it just gives that reflection. It's kind of getting a baseline. So thanks for the consideration of it.
Okay, let's vote. Laura Lee George,
Yes.
Terry Waddy,
Yes.
Tom O'Gorman,
Yes.
Martha McLaughlin,
Yes.
Lois Risling, yes. Motion carries. Okay. Contract with Matson and Valerga. Contract with Matson and Valerga for the scope of work of drawing up architectural plans for the portable classroom at the Orleans campus. The issue of the need for a portable classroom has come before the board several times. There are 5 classes and 4 classrooms at the campus, resulting in the need for one of the classrooms to be located in the school library. The limited space puts pressure on the classroom instruction, access to the school library, as well as facilitating enrichment activities and the ACES program. The need for the portable classroom at the Orleans campus has been acknowledged by the board. The first step to moving toward a resolution is to have DSA approved architectural plans. Is there a motion to approve the contract?
I motion to approve the contract.
Is there a second?
This is Tom. I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Questions? Okay, if not, let's
This is
vote.
Martha. Whoop, I have a question.
Okay.
So
All right.
we have the hourly rates, but there's nothing that specifically says, like approximately how much will this project cost?
Do you mean by the project the whole portable building, or do you mean the cost for the company, to draw up the architect?
Cover both, but more that this contract, it just shows hourly rates and reimbursables, but it doesn't give us. I couldn't find anywhere in there that said
how much are we committing to?
We expect. Yeah, how much are we committing to? I mean, we don't.
I don't know that we
It's not like a
know,
blanket.
but I don't know if Missy, if you have anything to add. I just, when this came back to me, it just seemed like we have to take the step, and all it will be drawing up the plans. Yeah, and it's going to be expensive. I don't know, Missy, I don't have a dollar amount. Unlike the other one, I didn't put a up to, not to exceed.
the process will be no cheaper than $90,000.
Entirely, the entire process.
That's from purchasing the building, from the architect design, for the cost of the electrician, we're looking at no less than $90,000.
Okay.
And so what I'm hearing Martha ask is when we talked with them in terms of just this one part of it, just to get, because we would bring a proposal back to the board that says, this is what we expect the wiring is going to be. Do we want to put a not to exceed on this contract? Or do we just want to let them get started? I mean, it is one site, one building. So at least it's not a whole school or a whole wing.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that concerns me, because I'm a tightwad, is that a lot of this stuff is in place. So I believe the electricity is already out there. I believe plumbing's already out there. And rather than digging up what's already been done, I mean, I'm just hoping that we're not gonna do like we did. We put in brand new windows and then tore them all back out. I'm just hoping that we're going to do this in the most sensible, fiscally responsible way possible.
So Martha, it looks like in the previous, I gave you guys the cost of the building, what the building was actually going to cost to purchase the building, the classroom itself. It looks like if we lay down on the cement pad that is already there, that's not going to cost very much. I don't think the architect design is going to be a real lot because we're going to go right on the cement platform that is already there. The wires that were put out there for the previous buildings, when we had the portables out there before for construction, they did take those wires back out of the ground. So that's the only part that I can see that's going to cost, is to get electrical wires put back out there. I don't think it's going to be a whole heck of a lot. That's why I said that I don't see it costing. The most cost of this is going to be buying the building. So, and then the architect fees are going to be anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 they have to give us that, and they're going to give us the DSA fees. So that's what's included in the architect and his design.
Okay, thank you, Missy.
And I think the real critical piece that Missy mentioned is the DSA. That's the trigger. Any movement has to be DSA approved, and that's something that they can provide. I mean, you do have the option. I think that calling yourself, saying that you're tight fiscally is good. You have a couple of fans of that in the room. And I think it's just, we're using our funding wisely. So, there is an option to put a to not exceed, and we would come back. And if they get close to that, then we'd have to say, well, we need to see if we can increase that, or we could just say, this is, knowing what Missy said. If she said 5 to 8, but I would say, we should be willing to commit 10 to 12 because that's how work goes. Carrie, did you have a question for me or Missy?
I personally would like to put a to not exceed and consult with Carmi about what our budget allows for us to do.
Well, we don't have any money that's specifically allocated for this. It's going to require because there's not, any of our construction funding for new construction is really focusing on getting money for the iTech building. So it's going to require some priorities and rearranging some priorities, but I think it's starting the process and then going, wow, do we still want to, if this is a priority, this is how much funding we're going to have to allocate. But we just, it's kind of just that first step. But
so basically we're voting on starting the process, not on actually following through with it until we find out the specifics. Yeah. Okay.
It's just for the start with the planning.
And this is Lauralee. Yeah, this is for the architect only. And one of the things I was wondering is, now we're saying there's a pad already out there. Was that already approved by DSA? You know, so there's those things that the architect needs to double check on. Now, for years and years, Matson and Valerga were the architects that designed most every building in the district. And this Mark Gaxiola was actually the architect who designed the Hoopa Elementary cafeteria. Now, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing with what we're finding with the heat and whatnot from all the windows, but he also designed the Hoopa High Gym, et cetera, when it was first built. So they've been, what the district had found over those years is that they were very easy to work with, and their prices at that point in time were reasonable. So I haven't heard anything different with their reputation lately, but so I'm comfortable with them not giving them an open book, but putting a cap on it, but making sure that cap is something that they can work with. Because I don't know if Missy has met with them, told them what is up there already, what isn't, and so, or they may just have a ballpark of what it costs to put in a pad, you know, because they do that at other schools.
Okay. Let's take a vote on this. Lorley,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Martha,
Yes.
Lois, yes, motion carries. Okay. Hoopa Valley High School return to play proposal. Hoopa Valley High School would like to adopt and introduce the Humboldt Del Norte League's return to play policy for the athletic programs at our high school. Hoopa Valley High School would like to adopt and introduce the Humboldt Del Norte League's return to play policy for the athletic programs at our high school. After extensive research with other districts from all over the state, it was determined that this model is the most current and forward-thinking with regards to keeping the student safety at the forefront of any decision of returning to play. Mr. Beckstead and Mr. Valdez have been in constant communication with league administrators, athletic directors, and coaches in our league. We have also consulted with our district school nurse, Angie Brown, and she has suggested things that we could add to our model to ensure student safety. As a result of implementing this model in other schools in Humboldt, Del Norte, Trinity County, there have been no COVID-19 cases popping up in any of the league school cohorts. We believe introducing this model will allow our students to successfully return to conditioning, play in stages that will allow the program to monitor, attract student participation, and minimize COVID-19 exposure. This report outlining the well-defined policies and procedures of the Humboldt Del Norte High School Sports League return to participation in athletics following the COVID-19 pandemic is a compilation of current best practices and guidelines of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the California Interscholastic Federation, the National Federation of State High School Associations, the National Athletic Trainers Association, and the California Community Colleges Athletic Trainers Association. These guidelines and recommending phasing was a collaboration with the Humboldt County Department of Health and Human Services and the Humboldt Del Norte League. Recommendation, adopt and introduce the Humboldt Del Norte League's return to play policy for the athletic programs at Hoopa Valley High School. Do we have a motion? You'll have to speak up because I have no pictures of anybody.
I move. Oh, go ahead, Lorley.
Go ahead. You go ahead. I'll second.
I move that we accept the proposal for, I have to go back and see what it was,
For
for
the Humboldt,
the return to play proposal.
okay.
And I'll second
And
that.
it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I just want to say that after I read this, I was very impressed with all the coverages of all the possibilities of problems that might happen down the line. I being the policeman in our family or policewoman in our family as far as keeping safe, I just felt really good about this one. And I want to thank the people that Craig Cornelison and Augie that really researched this and got this all put together for us.
And you guys, you have the high school staff that are here if you do have questions or compliments. But I just want to also assert, looking across the district and hearing the needs that of getting kids back on campus. I feel like this is an alignment with our educational plan. I don't know, Craig, do you want to talk? I have a couple things I want to say, but I wanted to go ahead and defer to Craig or Douglas or.
I have a comment before, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah.
I do believe that we need our students active in athletics, and I support this. However, I have a question. How are you going to practice basketball when you can't pass the ball from one student to the next? That was just mine, so I'm waiting for your comments.
Well, Craig, do you want to address that or?
I'll let Augie address that, but before he answers, I just want to recognize Augie, our superintendent, and Douglas Beckstead and Angie. They were really the ones that put this package together and put a lot of time and effort into it. So I want to recognize and thank all of them for the hard work that they did and give them the credit. Augie, did you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Nice to see all of you, some familiar faces and whatnot. Right now, we are planning on getting in the gym and working individually. And do I have a share screen kind of capabilities right now? Because I actually just kind of made.
Yes, you do.
All right. So this is currently what the first phase would look like. So this is kind of like what our basketball gym is. The pink on the sidelines kind of represents the baskets on the side. As you can see, the little blue dots here that are kind of triangular in each quadrant represent the social distancing that the students, the student athletes, where they would be. And so can you see is my arrow on there too, or is it just?
Yeah, we could see it. Yeah.
Okay, so we would do things, we would call this 1, 2, and 3. And then on the 1, everybody on the right side would shoot or would do a layup and get the rebound, come back. Then we'd go on the 2 and then on the 3 so that it minimizes closeness. They are practicing social distancing through phases 1 and 2. And until we get the green light from the Humboldt-Del Norte County to move into phases where we can pass the ball back and forth, we will continue to practice this model right here. And so I guess to answer your question, there won't be much passing between students. I have spoken with some coaches who suggested wearing gloves. So I thought that was pretty interesting, making sure they sanitize before. Oops, sorry, in my truck. Making sure that they sanitize before and after. And then obviously, as the outline proposed, we would be wiping down the balls and equipment and areas after each workout.
I have a question.
Sure.
In your proposal, you said that everybody was going to bring their uniforms home and wash them and take a shower and wash the uniforms. Well, I'm not sure everybody's going to get their uniforms washed. I mean, how are you going to oversee that?
Ms. Waddy, that's an interesting thing. One thing that I just found out is that we have washer and dryer capabilities at the school. So one thought that I was thinking, just as you asked that question, to be honest, was to after games, collect the uniforms, put them in the washer, and make sure they're washed and dried, and then hand them out the next game. So that's something that we could definitely do.
So you're going to have personal protection to collect all these uniforms and put them in the washing machine.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I thought of the gloves thing too. I mean, having two kids that were involved in basketball, I was like, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we're really, as I said before, it's really important, I feel, just for the kids to get back in the gym, and I'm just fortunate enough to be able to be a part of this, and really looking at it from every safety measure that we can possibly think of. And I know Angie and I have met multiple times with Mr. Cornelson, with Jennifer, with Douglas, just to make sure that we're crossing every T and dotting every I's to ensure safety, not only for the kids, but for the coaching staff that will be overseeing these groups as well.
So are you going to be running conditioning? Are they going to be running to build up their conditioning?
If we do any type of cardiovascular conditioning, it will be done outside on the track. Most of the stuff is going to be individual skill work with regards to dribbling, with regards to passing to themselves against a wall. If we're going to work on passing, and then shooting, like I said, in individual segments. And right now that's what most of the county is doing. They're following the same model, and we just had an athletic directors meeting last week, and everybody seems to be on the same page. So that's where we're at.
Thank you.
I have another question. When can we expect the various sports to start?
So the Humboldt Del Norte League is breaking away from the CIF model right now. The CIF model proposed a 2-sport season, which starts December 7th, I believe, and then it ends sometime in February, and then the second season starts. To minimize the impact of people having to choose between sports, especially at a small school like Hoopa or South Fork or Southern Trinity, the Humboldt Del Norte League proposed a 3-sport model, which season 1 will begin December 7th and end on January 30th. Season 2 would start on February 2nd. For football, it'd be January 25th, and that would end April 5th. And then the following week, April, give me one second. April 2nd we would finish. April 5th would be the start of the season 3, and that would end June 5th. The only schools at right now that would be able to compete for North Coast section titles would be spring sports, as well as wrestling. The rest of us would be just competing in just league, and no outside travel, nothing. We would just be competing against teams in our league.
Your league is outside.
I'm sorry?
Okay, any other questions? All right, let's take a vote. Martha McLaughlin?
Yes.
Lorley George?
Yes.
Terry Waddy?
Yes.
Tom O'Gorman?
Yes.
Lois Brisling? Yes, motion carried. Okay. First reading, BB 9322 meeting agenda material. Edited board bylaw 9322 meeting agenda materials for first reading and possible adoption. So we just wait a few minutes on this, Trish?
This is a first reading, and because the change is just crossing out 2 words and adding 3, not changing the whole policy, we can adopt it tonight if you would like to.
I'd rather wait and give people an opportunity
Okay.
to review it.
Okay. Then yeah, you guys
Yes. I
are free to comment.
I did not get that policy in my printed packet. And when I was going to the computer to try to get down all of the stuff, my time ran out. So I haven't had a chance to look at the changes.
Yeah, it'll be better. We'll just make sure that everybody gets a copy on the board so that they can take action at the December meeting.
Got it.
So, yeah. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
This is Tom. I move we adjourn.
A second?
This is Carrie. I
Yes,
second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. Laura Lee George? Did somebody catch that vote?
Yes, my mute's
All right.
going crazy.
Carrie Waddy?
Yes.
Tom O'Gorman?
Yes.
Lois Frisling, yes. Martha McLaughlin?